It started as a normal Tuesday at the Global Space Monitoring Station in Nevada. The coffee was bitter as usual, and the night shift workers were getting ready to head home. That's when every monitor in the facility lit up at once. Jack Thompson, the senior radar technician, nearly spilled his coffee when the first alerts came in. At first, he thought it was a system malfunction. There were hundreds of massive objects suddenly appearing just past Saturn's orbit. But as other stations around the world began reporting the same thing, he realized this was no glitch. "Sir, you need to see this," he called out to his supervisor, Bill Reed, who was already rushing over to his station. They just appeared, out of nowhere. The objects were huge. The smallest one was about the size of a small city, and the largest could have easily contained New York City with room to spare. They were clearly ships of some kind, but unlike anything humans had ever built. Their surfaces gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors in the weak sunlight reaching them. Within an hour, every major space agency and military installation on Earth was on high alert. The President of the United States was woken up, and emergency meetings were called in capitals across the world. Scientists and military experts argued about what to do, but before they could reach any decisions, the aliens made the first move. The message came simultaneously through every radio frequency, television channel, and even through cell phone networks. It was clear and crisp in perfect English and dozens of other Earth languages. "People of Earth, we come seeking your help. Our fleet is stranded and failing. We have watched your civilization for many years, and we believe you possess the unique abilities we need. Please respond." The message repeated every 10 minutes. Each time, more details became clear through the universal translators that the aliens had somehow embedded in their transmission. Their fleet of 300 ships had suffered a massive system failure. Their main engines were dying, life support was running on backup power, and their automated repair systems had completely shut down. What puzzled everyone was why they wanted Earth's help. Humanity had barely reached Mars, while these beings could cross galaxies. Their technology was clearly centuries ahead of anything on Earth. Yet here they were, asking for help from a civilization that had only figured out powered flight a little over a century ago. The answer came in their second transmission, after Earth's United Response Team had made contact. The alien commander, who called himself First Guide, appeared on screens worldwide. He looked almost human-like, except for his silvery skin and large dark eyes. "Your species has something unique," First Guide explained, his voice carrying a hint of what seemed like embarrassment. "You understand how to fix things. You build, repair, and modify your machines in ways we have forgotten. Our civilization has relied on automated systems for so long that when they fail, we lack the fundamental knowledge to repair them manually. But you humans," he paused, displaying what looked like a smile, "you still know how to work with your hands." The aliens had been monitoring Earth's internet, and they were fascinated by videos of people fixing cars in their garages, mechanics keeping ancient machines running with handmade parts, and engineers solving problems with basic tools. They had watched in amazement as astronauts repaired the International Space Station with simple tools and creative solutions. As the day turned into night, more details emerged. The alien fleet had hit some kind of spatial anomaly that had fried their main systems. Their backup systems were failing one by one. They had enough power to maintain life support for maybe a month, but without help, their entire civilization faced a slow death in the cold void of space. Earth's leaders debated through the night. Some were suspicious, others eager to help. But by morning, the decision was made. Humanity would help. After all, it wasn't every day that an advanced alien civilization admitted they needed humans to save them. As teams of engineers, mechanics, and scientists were quickly assembled around the world, no one yet realized that this was about to become humanity's greatest moment. The day when the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy learned that sometimes the ability to fix an engine with duct tape and determination was more valuable than all the automated systems in the universe. The world's largest airplane hangar in Nevada had been quickly converted into a meeting space. Inside, hundreds of people from different countries sat in rows, their eyes fixed on the large screen where First Guide's silvery face looked down at them. The alien leader was explaining why they had chosen Earth for help. "Your YouTube videos showed us something remarkable," First Guide said, causing a few chuckles in the audience. "We watched humans fix complex machines with basic tools. We saw you repair cars older than some of your nations. You keep ancient aircraft flying through skill and determination. This is exactly what we need." In the front row, Tom Walker shifted uncomfortably in his seat. At 45 years old, he had spent most of his life fixing things. From repairing his dad's tractor as a teenager to maintaining spacecraft at NASA, Tom had earned a reputation for solving impossible problems. Now, he and others like him were humanity's best hope for saving an alien civilization. Next to him sat Mike Rogers, a mechanic from Detroit who could fix any engine ever made, and Linda Cooper, a construction engineer known for keeping old mining equipment running in the harshest conditions. They were just three among hundreds of problem solvers gathered from around the world. "The truth is," First Guide continued, "our civilization has forgotten how to fix things. For 10,000 years, our machines fixed themselves. Now that those systems are broken, we are helpless." The aliens' admission stunned the room into silence. These beings could travel between stars, but they couldn't fix their own ships. It seemed impossible, yet it made a strange kind of sense. Humanity still needed to understand how things worked, because their technology wasn't advanced enough to be fully automated. General Adams, who was in charge of the human response team, stood up to address the crowd. "We've selected 30 teams of 5 people each. Each team will be transported to a different section of the alien fleet. Your job is to assess the damage and figure out how to fix it." Tom looked at his team assignment on his tablet. Besides Mike and Linda, he would be working with Ray Martinez, an electronics expert who once built a computer from spare parts, and Bob Wilson, a retired submarine engineer who specialized in life support systems. "Remember," General Adams continued, "we're not just fixing ships. We're showing the galaxy what humans can do. You leave in 6 hours. Get to know your teams." During their preparation time, Tom's team gathered in a small meeting room. They watched videos the aliens had sent showing their engine systems. The technology was incredible: reactors that used exotic matter, gravity generators, and faster-than-light drives. But underneath all that advanced technology, the basic principles were the same. Energy needed to flow from point A to point B. Systems needed power, and moving parts needed maintenance. "Look at this," Linda said, pointing to a diagram. They'd never even considered the possibility of manually overriding their systems. Everything's automated. Mike nodded, already making notes. "We'll need to create manual controls from scratch. But first, we need to understand how these systems work." As they studied the alien technology, Bob noticed something interesting. Their backup systems are failing because they're trying to run everything at once. They never learned to prioritize systems manually. Ray was already sketching out ideas for a manual control interface. "We can use basic electronic principles. Even advanced technology follows the same fundamental rules." Tom watched his team work with pride. This was what humans did best: taking complex problems and finding practical solutions. They didn't have fancy automated systems or artificial intelligence to rely on. They had something better: experience, creativity, and the ability to think outside the box. As the 6-hour preparation time drew to a close, the teams gathered again in the main hangar. A sleek alien shuttle had arrived to transport the first group to the stranded fleet. Tom looked at his team, seeing the same mix of excitement and determination in their eyes that he felt. "Ready?" he asked them. They nodded, gathering their tools: simple wrenches, multimeters, and basic repair kits. These simple tools, along with human ingenuity, were about to save the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. As they walked toward the shuttle, Tom couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the universe had a strange sense of humor. Who would have thought that humanity's primitive technology would turn out to be exactly what an advanced alien civilization needed? The alien shuttle was unlike anything the human teams had ever seen. Its interior walls seemed to glow with a soft blue light, and there wasn't a single button or switch in sight. Everything was controlled by thought interfaces and AI systems, at least when they were working properly. Tom's team sat quietly during the 30-minute journey to the stranded fleet. Through the shuttle's clear walls, they watched Earth grow smaller until it was just a blue marble in the darkness. Then, suddenly, they saw it. The alien fleet spread out before them like a sea of silver stars. "Look at the size of those ships," Mike whispered, pressing his hand against the shuttle's wall. The closest vessel was massive, its hull stretching for miles in every direction. But something was clearly wrong. Instead of the gleaming silver they had seen in pictures, parts of the ships were dark and lifeless. Their shuttle docked with one of the largest ships, which they learned was called the command vessel. As they floated through the airlock, they were met by their alien guide, who introduced himself as Helper. Like First Guide, he had silvery skin and large dark eyes, but he was shorter, about the size of an average human. "Welcome aboard," Helper said. His voice translated perfectly through some unseen device. "I must warn you, conditions are not ideal." He wasn't exaggerating. As they moved through the ship's corridors, they saw alien crew members huddled in groups, wearing what looked like emergency thermal suits. The air was cold, and many sections were lit only by emergency lighting. "The main power core is operating at 12% capacity," Helper explained as he led them to the engine room. "Life support is running on backup power, and we have perhaps 3 weeks before." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The engine room was enormous, bigger than a football stadium. In the center stood what looked like a massive glass sphere filled with swirling purple energy, the exotic matter reactor that powered the ship. But now it was barely glowing, and large sections of the control panels around it were dark. "This is where everything is controlled from," Helper said, gesturing to the dead panels. "But without the AI systems, we cannot access anything." "We never learned how." Tom walked up to one of the panels and started examining it with his multimeter. "Mike, check out these power conduits. Linda, see if you can figure out how these control systems are wired. Ray, start mapping out the electronic pathways. Bob, check the life support connections." The team got to work immediately, using their basic tools to understand the advanced technology. After an hour, they made their first surprising discovery. "Hey Tom," Mike called out, his head inside an access panel. "You need to see this. Their power distribution system. It's not that different from a car's electrical system, just way bigger and more advanced." Linda made another discovery. "These control panels, they're basically just fancy circuit boards. If we bypass the AI controls, we could probably operate them manually." Ray was already sketching out a diagram. "The main problem is that everything's designed to be run by computers. There's no manual backup, but we can build one." Helper watched in amazement as the humans crawled around his ship's systems, actually touching and examining components that his people had never physically handled before. When Tom asked for basic materials to start building manual controls, Helper seemed confused. "You mean you can fix this by hand?" he asked, the concept seemingly foreign to him. "That's how we do everything on Earth," Tom explained while stripping some wires. "We're going to teach your ship to work without its computer brain." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The team used parts from their own toolkits and materials from the ship to create makeshift control systems. They installed manual override switches, rigged up basic power distribution controls, and created a physical monitoring system using simple gauges and meters. Helper brought other alien engineers to watch. They were fascinated by how the humans worked, using simple tools and basic principles to interact with technology that their civilization had considered untouchable without AI assistance. By the end of their first day, Tom's team had managed to increase power output to 15%, a small improvement, but an important one. More significantly, they had proven that the alien technology could be controlled manually. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't elegant, but it worked. As they gathered for a break, eating their packed meals in a corner of the engine room, Tom looked at his tired but satisfied team. "Good work, everyone," he said. "Tomorrow, we start teaching them how to maintain their own engines." The aliens had asked for humanity's help in fixing their ships, but it was becoming clear that they would be learning much more than just repairs. They would be learning how to truly understand their own technology. After 3 days of working on the alien ship, Tom's team had made some real progress. They had built basic manual controls for most of the main systems, and power levels were now holding steady at 20%. But they still hadn't solved the main problem: the exotic matter reactor at the heart of the ship. "I don't understand," Helper said, watching as Tom and Mike examined the reactor's control systems. "How can you work without the prediction algorithms? Without the AI telling you what will happen?" Tom wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the purple swirling energy in the reactor core. "Sometimes you have to trust your gut and basic engineering principles," he explained. "Your eye might be able to calculate a million possibilities, but we humans have something just as valuable: experience." Ray had spent the last few hours creating a simplified diagram of how the reactor worked. He spread it out on a makeshift table, and the team gathered around. "Look here," he pointed. "The exotic matter reaction is failing because the containment field keeps fluctuating. The AI would normally adjust this automatically, but now we'll have to do it manually." Linda finished his thought, "like adjusting the fuel mix in an old engine." Bob, who had been quiet for a while, suddenly spoke up. "I think I know what's really wrong here." Everyone turned to look at him. "The whole system is too perfect. There's no room for error, no safety margins. When one tiny thing goes wrong, the whole system crashes." Helper tilted his head in confusion. "But perfect systems are ideal, are they not?" Tom shook his head. "Perfect systems are fragile. Human technology is built with safety margins, backup systems, and manual overrides. We expect things to go wrong sometimes, so we plan for it." As if to prove his point, a warning alarm suddenly blared through the engine room. The reactor's purple glow dimmed dangerously. "Containment field is dropping," Ray shouted, checking his jury-rigged monitoring equipment. The aliens in the room started to panic, but Tom's team jumped into action. This was what humans did best: handling emergencies with whatever tools they had available. "Mike, redirect power from non-essential systems," Tom called out. "Linda, help me stabilize these field generators. Ray, keep an eye on those energy levels. Bob, make sure the life support stays online." The team worked like a well-oiled machine. Mike ran to the manual controls they had installed, pulling levers and adjusting dials. Linda and Tom used modified Earth tools to adjust the alien field generators. Ray called out readings from their makeshift monitoring station, while Bob made sure the crisis didn't affect the crew's life support. Helper and the other aliens watched in amazement as the humans worked. There were no computers analyzing the situation, no AI making predictions, just 5 humans using their knowledge, experience, and instincts to handle a crisis. After 10 tense minutes, the reactor stabilized. Its purple glow strengthened, and the warning alarms fell silent. Power levels actually increased to 25%, better than they had been before the crisis. "How?" Helper seemed at a loss for words. "How did you know what to do without the predictive models?" Tom smiled as he checked the reactor readings. "We didn't. We just understood the basic principles. When something goes wrong, you don't always need a computer to tell you what to do. Sometimes you just need to understand how things work." Linda was already making notes about the crisis. We need to build in some safety margins, she said. Maybe install some manual backup systems. And teach them basic maintenance, Mike added. No offense, Helper, but your people need to learn how to take care of your own ships. Helper nodded slowly. We have relied on automation for so long, we forgot the importance of understanding our own technology. Perhaps this is what we truly needed help with. As the team began planning their next steps, Tom realized they had discovered something important. The aliens didn't just need their ships fixed. They needed to relearn how to be engineers, mechanics, and problem solvers. They needed to understand that sometimes the best technology wasn't the most advanced or automated, but the kind you could fix with your own hands when things went wrong. Tomorrow, Tom announced to his team, we start teaching Engineering 101 to our alien friends. They need to learn that every machine, no matter how advanced, still follows basic principles, and sometimes needs a good old-fashioned human touch to keep running. 1 week had passed since the reactor crisis, and the command vessel's engine room looked very different now. Makeshift control panels built from a mix of human and alien technology lined the walls. Simple pressure gauges and power meters, built using Earth designs, gave clear readings of the ship's systems. A group of alien engineers watched intently as Mike demonstrated basic maintenance procedures. Sometimes, Mike explained, tapping the gauge with his wrench, you need to give it a gentle knock to get an accurate reading. We call this percussive maintenance on Earth. The aliens looked horrified at first, but their expressions changed to amazement when the stuck gauge suddenly began working perfectly. In another corner, Linda was teaching a group how to identify problems by sound. Listen to the hum of the power conduits, she instructed. If it changes pitch, something's wrong. Your ears can be better than any sensor. Tom watched with pride as his team shared their knowledge. The aliens were like eager students, soaking up centuries of human mechanical wisdom that their civilization had forgotten. They took notes, asked questions, and practiced using tools they had never needed before. Tom, Ray called from his workstation. I think we've figured it out. He was working with Bob on their biggest challenge yet, creating a manual control system for the exotic matter reactor. Tom hurried over, Helper close behind him. On the screen was a diagram that combined alien technology with human engineering principles. It was brilliant in its simplicity. Look here, Ray pointed excitedly. We can't control the exotic matter directly, but we can manage the containment field manually. It's just like controlling the pressure in a boiler, just 1,000,000 times more advanced. Bob nodded. We've designed a system of manual controls that anyone can understand. No AI needed. Just watches these gauges, adjust these controls, and follow basic procedures. Helper studied the design with growing excitement. This could work. But will it be enough to restore full power? Only one way to find out, Tom said. Time to put everything we've built to the test. The team gathered around the reactor control station. They had spent days preparing for this moment, installing manual controls and backup systems. Every gauge was checked, every connection tested. The aliens watched nervously as the humans prepared to attempt something their civilization had never tried, running their most advanced technology completely by hand. Everyone ready? Tom asked. His team nodded. Helper, tell the crew to be prepared for power fluctuations. Mike, watch those pressure readings. Linda, monitor the field strength. Ray, keep an eye on power distribution. Bob, stand by on life support. Tom took a deep breath and began the power-up sequence they had designed. It was a careful balance of adjusting field strength, managing power flow, and monitoring dozens of different readings. The reactor's purple glow began to intensify. Field strength holding steady, Linda reported. Power distribution stable, Ray added. Pressure nominal, Mike called out. The reactor's glow grew brighter and brighter. The aliens watched in stunned silence as power levels began to rise. 30%, 40%, 50%. Warning alarms began to sound, but the team was ready. Each person knew exactly what to do, adjusting controls and maintaining stability. They worked together like a well-rehearsed orchestra, each playing their part perfectly. 75% power, Ray announced excitedly. Field containment solid, Linda confirmed. Life support systems fully operational, Bob reported with a smile. Finally, the reactor stabilized at 80% power, more than enough to run all essential systems and begin repairs on the rest of the fleet. The engine room erupted in cheers, both human and alien. Helper's eyes were wide with amazement. You did it. You actually did it. Without computers, without AI. We did it the human way, Tom said proudly. With knowledge, teamwork, and a little bit of old-fashioned engineering. As news of their success spread through the ship, Tom gathered his team. Great work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. Now we need to teach them how to maintain it and help fix the rest of the fleet. Looking around at the mixture of human and alien technology, at the simple gauges next to advanced alien displays, Tom realized they had created something unique. A bridge between two very different approaches to technology. They had shown that even the most advanced civilization could learn something from humanity's hands-on approach to solving problems. You know what? Mike said with a grin, patting a nearby control panel. I think we just invented a whole new field. Alien hot rodding. The laughter that followed, both human and alien, showed just how far they had come. The success on the command vessel had brought hope to the entire alien fleet. Over the next few days, human teams spread out to other ships, teaching and implementing their manual control systems. But just as things were looking up, disaster struck. Tom was checking the reactor readings when every alarm in the engine room suddenly began blaring. Helper rushed in, his silvery skin looking paler than usual. Emergency. Helper's voice was filled with panic. The reactor modifications on Ship 47 have caused a cascade failure. It's spreading through the fleet's linked systems. The massive display screen on the wall showed the status of all 300 ships. One by one, red warning lights were flashing across the fleet. The automated systems, in their damaged state, were shutting down completely rather than risk any failures. Get me Ship 47 now, Tom demanded, grabbing his emergency toolkit. Through the communication system, they could hear chaos on the other ship. The human team there was trying to contain the problem, but it was spreading too fast. All ships are losing power, Ray shouted from his station. The safety protocols are shutting everything down. Tom's mind raced. This was exactly what happened when systems were too perfect, too automated. One problem triggered failsafes, which triggered more failsafes, creating a chain reaction of shutdowns. Listen up. Tom's voice cut through the panic. Mike, Linda, get to Shuttle Bay 2 and head to Ship 47. Ray, coordinate with all human teams. Tell them to disconnect their ships from the main network. Bob, stay here and help me keep the command vessel stable. Helper watched in amazement as the humans sprang into action without hesitation. There were no computers analyzing the situation, no AI making predictions, just human intuition and experience taking charge. But the automated systems say we must evacuate, Helper protested. The predictive models show total system failure in 1 hour. Sometimes you have to ignore the computers and trust your gut, Tom replied, already working on the reactor controls. Bob, redirect emergency power to life support. Helper, I need you to be my runner. Go to each section and relay my instructions to your crew. Across the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Human teams were teaching alien crews how to manually override their safety systems, how to keep their ships running on basic power, how to think for themselves instead of relying on computers. On Ship 47, Mike and Linda found the source of the problem. The ship's reactor was overloading because its containment field was fluctuating wildly. It's like a pressure cooker about to blow. Mike yelled over the alarms. We need to vent the excess energy. Linda was already rewiring the control panel. If we can create a manual release valve, like a steam engine's safety valve. Meanwhile, On the command vessel, Tom and Bob were fighting to keep the main systems online. The automated systems kept trying to shut everything down, forcing them to create manual bypasses on the spot. Reroute power through the secondary circuits. Tom called out, his hands moving quickly over the controls they had built, just like jumping a car battery. The next 30 minutes were the most intense of their lives. Every human team across the fleet was working at full speed, applying centuries of Earth's engineering knowledge to save these advanced ships from their own automation. Slowly, ship by ship, they began to stabilize the situation. Mike and Linda successfully vented the excess energy from Ship 47's reactor. Ray coordinated the disconnection of ships from the failing network, letting each vessel run independently. Bob kept the command vessel's life support running while Tom managed the main reactor. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the alarms began to quiet. The red warning lights on the display started turning green again. The crisis had been averted. Helper looked at the makeshift control panel Tom had been working on, a mess of wires, manual switches, and jury-rigged gauges that had just saved the entire fleet. "I don't understand," Helper said quietly. "Our most advanced systems said this was impossible. They predicted complete failure." Tom wiped sweat from his forehead and smiled. "That's the difference between humans and computers, Helper. Computers only know what they're programmed to know. Humans, we improvise. We adapt. We find solutions that aren't in any manual." As the emergency teams began assessing the damage and making repairs, one thing became clear to everyone, both human and alien. The fleet had just been saved not by advanced technology, but by human determination, creativity, and the willingness to get their hands dirty. The aliens were learning an important lesson. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced one, but the one that worked. 2 weeks after the massive system failure, the alien fleet hung in space near Earth's orbit, but it was very different now. Every ship had been modified with human-designed manual controls. Alien crews confidently monitored gauges and adjusted settings by hand, something that would have been unthinkable just a month ago. Tom stood in the command vessel's engine room, looking at the reactor they had modified. The purple glow was strong and steady, maintained not by AI, but by skilled operators who understood their technology. Helper stood beside him, holding what looked like an old-fashioned clipboard, another human invention the aliens had quickly adopted. "The last ship's modifications were completed this morning," Helper announced proudly. "All 300 vessels are now running at 85% power or better. And more importantly, we understand how they work." First Guide had called a final meeting in the command vessel's main hall. All human teams gathered there, along with representatives from every ship in the fleet. The hall had been modified too, the automated systems replaced with simple controls that anyone could understand. "People of Earth," First Guide began, his voice carrying emotion that no translation device could hide. "You have done more than save our fleet. You have taught us something we had forgotten over thousands of years of automation: the importance of understanding our own technology." He gestured to the walls, where diagrams now hung showing both alien and human engineering principles working together. "We came to you thinking we needed a simple repair. Instead, you have given us a new way of thinking." Mike nudged Tom and whispered, "Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans with manual tools, huh?" First Guide continued, "In recognition of this, the Stellar Collective has made 2 decisions. First, we invite Earth to join our alliance as full members. Your practical knowledge and problem-solving abilities are exactly what our civilization needs." The hall erupted in cheers from both humans and aliens, but First Guide raised his hand for silence. "Second, we wish to establish what we're calling the Human School of Engineering. We want to send our young engineers to Earth to learn your ways of thinking, your practical approaches to problems, and yes, even your percussive maintenance." This brought laughter from everyone who had seen the aliens' initial horror at the idea of tapping gauges with wrenches. Tom was asked to speak next. He looked around at his fellow humans, mechanics, Engineers, technicians, and problem solvers who had achieved what the galaxy's most advanced computers had thought impossible. "We came here expecting to find technology beyond our understanding," Tom said. "Instead, we found that the basic principles of engineering are universal. Whether you're fixing a car engine or an exotic matter reactor, the key is understanding how things work and not being afraid to get your hands dirty." He pointed to the modified reactor control panel nearby. "Look at this, alien technology and human know-how working together. We've created something new here, something that takes the best of both our civilizations." Helper stepped forward then, holding up a thick manual. "We've documented everything we learned. The Stellar Collective is calling it the human approach to universal engineering. It will be required reading for all our technical crews." As the ceremony concluded, Tom's team gathered one last time in their now familiar engine room, the place where they had first faced the challenge of fixing technology centuries beyond Earth's development. "You know what this means, right?" Linda said with a smile. "Humans are going to be the mechanics of the galaxy. Every advanced civilization will want us to teach them how to fix their own technology." Bob laughed. "Imagine that. The most advanced species in the galaxy coming to Earth to learn how to use a wrench." Ray was already excited about the future possibilities. "Think about combining their advanced materials with our practical engineering. The things we could build." First Guide approached their group one last time. "There's an old saying in your language that we now understand. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But thanks to you, we now also know what to do when it is broke." As the human teams prepared to return to Earth, they looked out at the fleet they had helped save. Each ship now carried a piece of human ingenuity within it, not just in its modified systems, but in the knowledge they had shared. The aliens had come seeking help with broken ships. They left with something far more valuable: the understanding that sometimes the most advanced civilization in the galaxy could learn important lessons from the people who still knew how to fix their own cars.